everyone. Welcome to Real Estate with Ryan. Hope you guys are enjoying your Saturdays. And always, thank you for tuning in and following us. It means the world. April sends all the love, and I hope you're doing well, staying healthy on a Saturday. Got a good show for you today. But before we start, I always like to give some congrats, share some love with some of my great clients that have sold. Congrats to Bernard Way. Great first-time buyer that we got to help. Good man, Nick in the building. Congrats on the new construction home in Maryville. So excited to help you guys get into your first home. It was pretty cool. Other day we were at closing. And if you follow my page, guess what? Now we're going to be on TikTok, man. We're in TikTok land. You might see Nick and his wife doing a little dance. So that's pretty cool. We're going to put that out there. So follow us. That's a new channel for us. Congrats to 103 Niagara Way out there in Oak Ridge, on the market quickly. That was a little fixer-upper, sold quick, multiple offers, and congrats to them. Monroe, price drop, little adjustment there in the market, $496 Monroe. Great opportunity to grab this property. Lots of acreage, lots of space, over 3,000 square feet, 2-car garage. You don't want to miss that property. Check it out on my website, ryancoleman.org. And 112 Dorothy, new adjustment, 285. That one won't last long. Check us out there. Congrats to Creek Falls Way going under contract. Lock Ridge going under contract in record time. All right, so let's get into the show. As you guys know, you can always find us on News Talk 98.7 at 1, Talk Radio at 11 a.m. If you're tuning in for the first time, don't worry. If you're missing it, maybe you're at the game or maybe you're at a sporting event or just out with the kids, always check us out on Android and Apple. We've got us there in case you want to listen to us in the car. Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, we're streaming live, so you can always catch the show. So, you know, real estate comes with a lot of risk. And when you buy a big property or a forever home, you know, it can be scary. You know, we had a lot of storms lately. We're seeing storms in Alabama. What happens if you put all your money, all your savings, and then a storm happens or a tree falls or something happens to your property? Well, we got to have insurance. So we're talking homeowners insurance today, tips, things that you need to have when you buy that forever home to make sure you get the right insurance. Because the last thing that you want to do is think you have the proper insurance and you didn't do your diligence. And guess what? You're losing money. And with today's economy and everything going on, some of the things we're going to talk about in the insurance that is so important. Maybe you're buying a cabin in Sevierville market. We're going to talk about that, how it may not be as easy to get insurance as you think. That investment property, maybe they don't even cover VRBO. So these are all things that we're going to talk about in the show. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. You know, we're proud sponsors of the Vols, and you can always catch us here every Saturday talking to you about real estate. So let's talk about homeowner insurance. They say it's a luxury, not a necessity. A luxury, not a necessity, because it just protects your home, but it also covers you for possessions, damage, and theft. That's a lot of things that people really are not aware of. So if your car is broken in or it's on the property or there's certain liabilities, somebody falls, that homeowner's insurance is going to protect you there as well. Virtually all mortgage companies require borrowers to have insurance for the coverage of the full or the fair market value of the property. And they won't give you a loan on the property without that or proof of that insurance. So these are things and kind of key takeaways that we're going to talk about insurance, and then we're going to dive into these things and why they're important. You know, one of the most important opportunities with the homeowner's insurance is that it just covers the destruction of the damage. People think that it's the exterior. Sometimes your condos, we sell a lot of condos in the area, and on condos, it's more of a content, right? Because the policy of the HOA is going to cover the exterior. So sometimes your policies are cheaper because they're covering interior walls. So keep that in mind. Liability to cause harm to other people, those things come into play. Let's say you've got a big dog like me. I've got a Doberman. He could be considered a vicious breed. He's not. He's like the big baby. But dogs like that, pit bulls, German shepherds, things like that, could cause your insurance policy to rise. So be careful of that. Policy rates are largely determined by the insurer's risk. So we've got a lot of claims in a certain area. They're assessing those risks in a history and a base area. So they're associated with the home and probably your zip code or location. Shopping for a policy is so important. You want to check multiple sites. We're going to post this back on social media, and I'm going to give you a little tip. I'm going to add in social media a new site where you can search multiple companies at one time and give you the best rate without having to just call one place. So, do your diligence. You may save thousands a year on your insurance depending on your price range. Okay. Let's talk about the interior of the property. We also covers your clothing, insurance, appliances, things that you wouldn't think of. How about your watches, your jewelry? So many things to include. Now, when you're insuring your home and your content, let's say you've got a nice wedding ring, watches, things that are very, very important. A lot of insurers won't tell you this, or maybe they will, but if you're just going through the process and you're buying that first home, like our friend Nick here, or buying your forever home and you're trading up, you just get a quote, they send it over, there's no endorsements, there's no policies. So that's the details. Make sure you're requesting to get the details and the endorsements, because not every insurer is the same, right? Not every insurer is the same. And you want to make sure you get appraisals for your jewelry. Because if you don't have appraisals and then you claim them on the insurance, guess what? They may not pay. Okay. So that's very, very important. And let's see, what else? A lot of the insurance institutes, companies will provide coverage for 50 to 70% of the insurance of the structure of your home. This is a really good point. The example is that the house is insured for $200,000, that it only be worth $140,000 in coverage. This is one of the things that I think most people kind of miss as an opportunity. So let's say you're buying that $200,000 home. The land is typically $40,000 or somewhere in there. So you're going to insure it for 140, 150 range, maybe 160, just depending on where you want to be in policy rates. So keep that in mind, that you're not insuring the land, that if it did burn down, unfortunately, or something, if something crazy like that happened, you're only insuring the replacement cost. Now, we'll get into this other thing I want to talk about, but let me mention it real quick. So on top of your policy, let's say we get a policy and everything's locked in, you can always change. But there's something I think that you need to, as a business owner, you guys are business owners out there, and personally have something called an umbrella policy. Your umbrella policy is going to cover your cars. Basically, it's a blanket policy that will cover everything, right? So let's say I didn't have enough insurance on my auto, or didn't have enough on my home. I would urge you to look into a umbrella policy, because it covers so much. And if you're not up to date with every policy that you have, it will give you that added protection. But keep in mind, umbrella policy is only as good as that insurer. So what does that mean, Ryan? So for example, let's say you own a bunch of investment properties like we do. Now, the umbrella policy, be very careful when shopping those, because the umbrella policy, let's just say Allstate, I'm with Allstate. And if Allstate doesn't own that property, they won't cover that rental property in the umbrella. So keep in mind, you have to maybe go outside. If you have multiple investment properties, you need a larger company that will cover umbrella policies. So see all those restrictions when you come in there. So the different types of homeowner coverage would be actual cash value. So the actual cash value will be the cost of what the house is worth and the belongings. Replacement cost is what I want to talk to you guys about and make sure that you're covering when you're buying that new home. Is the replacement cost is the actual cash value of home and possessions and the deduction of depreciation. So you won't be able to repair, rebuild the home up to the original value. And there's guaranteed or extended replacement cost. One of the biggest things in this market that you got to watch out for as the cost rise, you want to make sure that you have enough in there to cover the inflation. We'll talk about that in a little bit, how the inflation is moving up. We've been talking about in our next show, kind of a lead in. Next show, we're going to talk about new construction. With inflation and prices rising, construction materials being slowed in, that could put a halt to new construction. How would that affect the market? And how would that affect if there's a claim on your home? How is that going to do? How is that going to affect your replacement? So make sure you add 20 to 25% inflation for the cost of appreciation. If not, you may be short if you need to file a claim. Some advisors feel that homeowners should be guaranteed by replacement, and their policies just don't cover enough of insurance on the value of your home. That's why I encourage the umbrella. I think that's a good opportunities. We'll talk about how rates are in here, but we're coming on a break here in about the next 30 seconds. But basically, your credit is so important. They're going to check that and the availability in your area. That's why it's so important that they're judging you on your rates. That's why we're going to add in our social media link different companies to do your diligence on. So also keep in mind, if you're doing VRBO or you're doing that investment property, a lot of our major carriers do not cover that. So hope you enjoy the first half of this show. We've got a good show for you talking about market values and appraisals. Make sure you stay with us for the second half of Real Estate with Ryan.
Knoxville and East Tennessee. The region is known for its rolling hills, rivers, and lakes. There's no better place to work, live, or raise a family. Home is where your story begins. Buying or selling your home is a big decision, and you need a real estate team you can trust.
I'm Ryan Coleman with Hometown Realty, your hometown experts. Whether you're buying or selling a home, let us develop a winning game plan for you.
Hometown Realty is East Tennessee's #1 real estate group and a proud sponsor of the Vols.
Your friend promised we wouldn't be homeless.
He promised. He's doing everything to fix it.
You need to call and have him fix it now.
Hey, man. No, not yet. Let me call you back. We're working on it.
Ryan Coleman with Hometown
He says he's doing the best he can do, honey.
Well, he's taking too long. I knew we should have gone with Ryan Coleman.
Choosing the right agent is never easy.
Call your hometown experts. We'll take care of all the details and make sure you don't get stuck in a motel. All right, thanks for coming back after the break. You listen to Real Estate with Ryan. As you're always, your host, Ryan Coleman, talking a little real estate. First half of the show, we were talking about insurance and why it's important. I promise you guys, not an insurance show, but I think it's so important if you're buying that forever home that it's one of the last steps that you think about actually doing. You know, your lender needs it. You call your insurer, you shop around, you get the quote, you get the price, everybody's shopping price, and then they send it over. Very few people ever get the endorsements or look or kind of dig into the policy and the claims. And these are very, very important that you look at. Not only do you look for discounts, because if you have your car and auto, but look at the liability or the certainty or the strength of the insurer. Look, are they paying their claims? Are we having issues, or are they quick to get out there and take care of things? A lot of times it's not just the cheapest price, guys. It's, you know, you have the cheapest price insurance, but then when it comes down to pay, guess what? They don't pay, or it's a hassle, or it's months out, and those things are important. One of our employees just had a whole upstairs, or little one, got a hold of the wash sink, and before he knew it, little man had the whole upstairs flooded, and it was a $40,000 or $50,000 claim. And I think she only paid, Nick said she paid about $1,500. Maybe it was a process and everything like that. But how important was that to have the proper insurance that would cover it? Now, the challenge is if you make a claim, then you know that's going up in the following years. So those are things to think about. So when you're looking for your insurance, kind of segment into the next section, things that can give you a discount is maintain a security system, raise your deductible. The higher your deductible, the less your outpay and your cost will be. So if you've got some extra savings, that raising that deductible makes a lower price for your insurance. Multiple policy discount, and then plan ahead if you're doing any kind of renovations on your insurance. So there's enough for insurance on the show. So with the market, real estate market where it is, right? We're talking about inflation. We're talking about so many different things. And that's a good segment, Nick, that we were chatting with inflation. Is it kind of hard to believe? And I think that was what we were talking about on the show previous. We're saying, well, hey, how high can prices go before there's an adjustment? And one of the things that I think is leading into the season that we're in, we're talking about that came out today that FedEx and UPS are going to raise their prices. 5.9% to 7.9% before the holiday season. How does that lead us? What does that mean? Well, it means if they're charging more, that old domino, it kind of runs down the hill, somebody's got to pay it. Well, they're probably going to pass that on over to the consumer. How about gases and fuel prices? They're rising up. Well, you know who's going to get passed on to that. So all those things are coming up. And then with the housing market, how is that going to happen? Existing home sales were down 2% in July with a seasonally adjusted rate of 5.88 million. That's 1.5% lower than a year ago. With inflation, everything going on, it's out of control, right? Who can afford it? And we have so many people that have kind of stepped out of the market along with everything that's going on in the community, COVID and so many things going on, that buyers are waiting. And if buyers are waiting, or maybe that they're pricing out of the market, where does that put sellers? Well, I think you're seeing some adjustments. So things that were March or spring or summer, now we have to make some adjustments. What are we going to do in this market where there's adjustments to be made? Now we're going to talk about appraisals and how to dispute a home appraisal. So when we see that the market is correcting, and as I told you guys, it can always go up for so long, and then eventually there's some corrections. But our inventory is very, very low. I still don't think there's any reason to panic. But with anything, there's going to be adjustments, and we'll talk about how those adjustments may lead to you going under contract, and we may have an appraisal that comes back that maybe doesn't hit the value. You know, when the market talks inflation and the news starts going, guess who's next? The banks. And the biggest challenge is that the banks start restricting. We talk about that restriction, then that passes on to the consumers, and it makes lending tighter. And if lending's tighter, then the appraisers are right behind it. You know, what they were doing 6-month comps or 3 months comps, now they're doing, one pending and 60 days. They're always changing it. And so that's restrictions from the lender, Fannie, Freddie, FHA, and VA. So what do you do as a seller? What do you do if you have a great agent that's working for you? So hopefully your great agent's going to know what to do. If you call us, we've got you covered. We've got your back. We're going to take care of it. I can't tell you how many times that we've worked out an appraisal or battled the best we could for the seller to get them more money. A lot of agents aren't familiar with this process and what they need to do to dispute an appraisal. So if it's too low, what do you do? Well, one of the challenges, factors to consider in appraisal are those standards on comparables that have sold, recent sales. So many buyers and sellers, when we look into the market, we look at a subdivision and we say, well, that house has these features and that, but mine has all this and all that, and we did this and we did that. So we get really attached to the property. But the challenge is the other home has 5 acres more and 1,000 more square feet. So we really have to look at that. That's why, guys, if you're thinking about buying or selling in today's market, if you're thinking about selling this market coming up here towards the end of the year, what we need to do, first step, go to ryancoleman.org, go to my website. We've got a free tool for you, no pressure, no obligation. We'll get your home's value in a ballpark of exactly where we're at. Now, that's a ballpark. It's not going to be exact because what? Your home is going to have a certain value that we need to get together, but we'll have a range to have a conversation if you're not ready to have me out. But you can have me come out to the property. We can talk more in detail, and I can give you one of our guides that will give you all the things you need to do to get your home in tip-top shape or in maximum value in today's market without some things that you may not need to do. I can't tell you how many people we have these conversations, and I really tell them, kind of praise them and say, hey, thank you for calling me ahead of time, because not only can we have it right the first time, but some of these things that you were going to take you maybe a month or two doing a DIY, guess what? We're on the market and we get it sold, and they're so happy, right? So the first thing you want to do is when we get a appraisal that comes in low, is we're going to dispute it. First thing you want to do is send an email, contact the lender and say, hey, we're going to dispute this. We find that it's not correct. And you want to get a copy of the appraisal, because sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, but there's a lot of things on the appraisal, and sometimes there's communication. I can't tell you how many deals we've worked or we've contacted a lender. They said it was an appraisal issue, and then it somehow got mixed up with a different deal. It just happens, okay? So we want a copy of the appraisal. Number 2, we're going to look for errors in the appraisal. It's important to remember that appraisers are human. And talk about being human and what's going on today. How many appraisers are dealing with COVID and so many different things with they're overpressured by the lender with the fierce demand of appraisals, purchases, and refis. And the appraisals are a true value of opinion. It's an opinion, okay? It's opinion of value, and it's very possible that the appraisal made some 1 or 2 honest mistakes, okay? If you didn't give them all the information on the front end, if you didn't have a strong description and things that are reinforcing all the updates and things done, then it's likely that they could have missed some things that would affect the appraisal. Number 3, it's important to point out important upgrades and improvements. Your home appraiser is in the house for just a short time, maybe an hour, maybe 45 minutes. And if you don't reinforce them, I know we did one yesterday, had a great appraiser that reached out to me and asked for it ahead of time. You know, one good thing in today, if the market is shifting and you know that you're at the top of the market and you've pushed every dollar, which you should, and which we're getting, meet the appraiser there. You know, one of the biggest tips that I think I've done, people buy and sell through they trust, right? So then when you people, it's a personal situation. You know, hey, let me tell you about this. Let me show you this. Show me is so much easier than telling me. It means, like we just talked about, people are busy. So me sending a PDF or Excel sheet sometimes doesn't do as much as meeting the appraiser there and showing them. Very, very important. And then when you're looking at your comparables as a whole, make sure that if you're in rural areas, you're going to have limited comps. So we've got to expand 5 miles. Maybe with COVID, with everything that we went through, guess what? That whole year has limited sales. So we want to look also for pendings. Pendings now that we can contact the agent, although it may be a present comparable, it can use for a 4th or 5th comp to support the market value of where we're at. And then if you're in a subdivision, make sure we rule out any sales that were a divorce situation or there was something that was causing the property to go below market or super unmotivated. All these things come in. I hope you enjoy our show. We're with you every week talking a little real estate, having fun with you, always trying to make you part of the family. You know we're your proud Tennessee Realtor, proud sponsor of the Vols, and you can catch us every week on News Talk 98.7 at 1, Talk Radio at 92.3, Facebook, YouTube, and guess what? We're even on TikTok, man. We're going to start those channels, and proud to be with you. Easy number, best number in real estate, 693-SOLD. That's 693-SOLD. Or you can visit us online at your own convenience at ryancoleman.org. Hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.